two of the most desirable business sedans in a comparison test here on Autogefuehl with Thomas, head to head with the Audi A6 versus the BMW 5 Series, both with the 3-liter petrol engines, both 6 cylinders. Let's go! We start with the Audi, typical Bauhaus design, rectangular, really large single frame grille here with the sport look, with the blacked out design. This is also the S-Line exterior package with the sportier accentuations in the lower part here. LED, yes, but these are not the matrix LED headlamps, so it is missing one option. Therefore, the daytime running light doesn't look that cool actually, but you can of course get it. Tango Red is this color. And here at the BMW we have the Bluestone metallic color. Bluestone? Isn't it just grey or something? Well, whatever. And here we have the laser lamps. This is also an option, and they have these blue accentuations, and the daytime running light has this, swinging style. This 5 Series here recently updated or recently facelifted. There the headlamps have, more integrated features, so it looks a little bit sleeker on the front, but not less sporty, of course, even wider actually, with that huge double kidney here, then also in the black styling for today. The question is here in the front exterior styling, it's more often just a matter of preference. Which one is you? Just from if you have to decide right now, which one would you take from design? Tell me in the comments. As for the side profile, same length, almost 5 meters, just a couple of centimeters difference, but nothing majorly. Interesting that design-wise, the 5 Series looks more agile, I think, especially with the design line right here, the dropping line dividing in light and shadow. Just more agility to the whole vehicle, I think. Here in this case with 18-inch winter tires. So that's how it looks like when the tires are also more balloonish or in winter time. Of course, would look even more impressive than in summertime. And we also have the shadow line. That means we have the black frames around the windows. We also have this black package with the Audi today here, so very well comparable. S-Line exterior, 19-inch winter tires, so a little bit bigger than. Both come with adaptive suspension as an option. With the BMW, the normal level suspension, here is the option then that you can go for the adaptive air suspension. But it will be very interesting to compare these then in the driving part, definitely. I think the A6 more has this business sedan style here, so from the design, not that sporty, a little bit more elegant, especially here in this area. And you can see the dropping lines are kind of split right here. Yeah, very interesting to compare it here. And as for the rear, I think they look kind of similar from the rear, don't they? Of course, here the 5 Series, a little bit different from the headlamps, a little bit higher. These ones have been facelifted. They now have a more three-dimensional design, I think really cool, and real exhaust tips here for the 540i. The A6, once again with the dark styling here, this is an option that you get everything in black, also with the black Audi rings. You do not have to go for that one. It's a special black package actually. In the lower part, Autogefuehl fake exhaust police, alert here. Pure fake exhaust, the real exhaust underneath. So the exhaust battle is won by BMW here in this case, but the overall design thing, in this case, I really have to say I love both from the exterior styling. What about you? Turning indicator comparison looks great with the BMW right there. In this case, a little bit poor with the Audi, but the reason is, here, look at the Audi, this is the base headlamp. But I mean, the car for that price should not even offer this base headlamp with this, standard turning indicator, I think. In the matrix LED option, where it looks really amazing and you have the more elaborated indicator, then maybe it even looks cooler. But here in this case, we have the high-spec headlamp with the BMW and the low-spec headlamp with the Audi. That's then the case here, where for this reason it loses this small element. And the same accounts also in the rear, but if you would have the higher spec Audi, then you would have the cascading turning indicators. They look actually better than the BMWs, but this is also a very nice solution here. Very slim, right? Key fob comparison, both nice and works well in the pocket. I think here with that ring is a little bit less practical with the BMW. That makes the key bulky, so I would remove that ring here. The Audi looks a little bit more premium at first, but maybe it might collect more scratches and fingerprints. This one here with the matte design with the BMW, but I like both actually. And we start with the interior with the Audi with a door closing sound. Oh, lovely. Look at that. Oh, hear that. Wow. One of the best door closing sounds. That's awesome. The only thing is that they don't close that. You see that? They don't close easily. So I think because the insulation here is so well done and here that you really, see that doesn't work. You really have to hammer them that they properly close. But then the closing sound is awesome indeed. And also the build quality on the inside here looks really nice. Clicking sound here for the window levers as well. That's a lovely thing to have. And then this interior, S-Line interior as well. Perforation on the steering wheel, for example. That looks really fancy. And then they basically repeat this design from the front grille on the steering wheel. I love this design detail. Then sporty S seats here. Seating materials is depending on the market. On the US market, you can go only animal skin. And on the UK and German market, you can also get, for example, microfiber on the inside. It's a mix, but they always contain animal material here with the Audi A6. So that's not that progressive. The seat ergonomics, however, are really good. So like the base form from the seat. And it will be a little bit more breathable for the Dynamica microfiber variants we can get in the UK and in Germany. You feel like in a typical sedan. At the same time, it's not too low and not uncomfortable at all. Super comfortable ergonomics. And here steering wheel with a very smooth process. This is a manual version here, but you can easily live with that. And what I love is direct input here. Volume at the steering wheel. Muting it to click it, for example. Left side you control the digital instruments and everything resonates very well. Clicking sounds. It still has then some kind of analog interface, although we have screens here. But important functions on the steering wheel can still be clicked and not this hashtag capacitive BS we see so often nowadays in the car industry. Headroom with 189 or 6'2", no problem, a lot of headroom. With both vehicles you can choose a panoramic roof. These two vehicles we have here today do not have it. They have a lot of other options, and at the end of the day I'll also tell the price differences will also be very interesting, I can promise. Interior overview, super clean with the Audi. Here the steering wheel, once again with these great buttons. Wow, what a clean design, I love that. Then we have the two screens here, both touch screens. Here the car internal GPS is usable, and the menu structure, it's all via touch, no turning knob, but the menu structure is actually overall quite simple. For example, here you can access all the car features and so on. For example, here the drive select, but you can also access it from below, because when you click below, you can also change it. Here the air suspension is also going up or down depending on the driving mode, for example. And the CarPlay or Android Auto integration, wired or wireless, here you can choose, actually, that's a good thing. And Bang & Olufsen sound system is, especially when you turn up that 3D surround sound, wow, it's amazing. So, wow, that is lovely. And I think the Harman Kardon system in the BMW is also very good, but I think this one even tops it a little. Lower part then with the second screen, temperature control is with, like sliding or pressing here. I do prefer real dials, but for a touchscreen solution, it's probably the best touchscreen solution I've seen. It's big enough and so on. And also has some interesting things. For example, if you have 2-zone AC and want to have it synchronized again, you do this swiping gesture and it's synchronized again. That's also interesting. Seat heating is here in the lower part. And when you use the car internal GPS, the lower screen changes. And then you can type when you're standing still or when you're driving. You have then this writing function. Digital instruments in the Audi. They look really fancy. You can change the view, have this one bigger, for example. You can also have the GPS map in the middle part, but only the car internal GPS though. And also the Audi offers a head-up display. They're also quite equal each. Nice big shifting lever still here. And then this can be put open, very well attached to my USB-C charger, inductive charging pad, but especially the iPhone does quickly overheat here. Interesting thing, by the way, in the Audi with the seat belt here on the passenger side. That's what you sometimes hear while driving. That's annoying. And it's always like in the Audi or VW that they are attached on the inside of the doors in that way. And here, when you move them down, this is a solution, then it's tight, and then you don't hear that while driving, or you would need to attach them. But this is already the good solution. Always slide it down, actually. So yeah, but let's see how it is in the BMW later. Now the rear seating area. Let's take a look here first. So yeah, it looks actually quite cool. The middle console is large, so it won't leave too much space then in this case. What about legroom and so on? And here inside of the doors, this nice soft touch material right here. Very well done here as for the whole finish. Also for the window levers here in the back. So yeah, that looks really good for the finish. When I'm driving, as a tall driver in the front, leaves some legroom, no problem for at least 4 tall adults here. Headroom also, both don't have panoramic roof option here today. Some headroom is left, and it's definitely fairly comfortable due to that huge middle console. Of course, the middle seat is kind of tricky. Yeah, somehow works. Not the most comfortable position, but it still works. And I really like this separate climate unit they have then here in the rear. Also with clicking sounds, then it is a screen, yes, but still clicking sounds, and 2 USB-C chargers then here. Meanwhile, in the middle part, we can fold this one down. Some space plus cup holders, and they are also adaptive here in the rear. Now rear seating here of the BMW. Let's take a look first. Also nice entry, but yeah, when you already see that looks a little bit closer here. It looks quite equal from that middle part here, because both have also this all-wheel drive thing. And also here, nice material choices. Here, everything also very well done. So build quality seems both great. Here, legroom wise, yeah, it works, but closer. And the Audi also has this recess here, left and right. So legroom wise, clearly a win for the Audi. You see here that the bench is, I think, bent a little bit more like this from the angle. And seating comfort wise, it's actually quite fine. So also good comfort. But you see here, I think my legs are, you have more space here. And also BMWs, typically like for decades, have a very large area here, and you don't have too much space here for your outer elbow. So overall, I think, yes, when sitting here, it's comfortable. Headroom is also comparable, no problem here for tall adults. So you'll get along with both, definitely really nice comfort. But I think the crucial thing would be, if you are very tall, then the Audi would be your choice in the rear. So if you're driving a lot of times, like with 4 tall adults, for example, then the Audi leads it. Otherwise, the comfort is also fine in the BMW. Middle seat here, it's a little bit firmer here in the middle part, so also not ideal. So indeed, the difference is the Audi just offers a little bit more legroom, that's clear. But the comfort here itself, and we're a little bit, a little bit shorter, it's comparable. Here, equal system, a little bit more space. Where's that? You can't fold up this. That's astonishing. Here, cup holders, they are also some adaptive, but not as adaptive. Oh, somehow I activated the rear, the rear climate unit here, which I found cooler with the BMW, because you can still have the real turning dials here. That's cool. And yeah, now I could, I must have hit this one then activated it. Actually, also seat heating for the rear is available, but that's an option. Now the interior of the BMW in the front. Oh yeah, I always close the BMW here. When I put my finger here, that's how to close it, and then here, that's how to open it with the keyless entry. And then, oh, the door closing sound is way worse. That's a clear difference. So door closing sound battle is, yeah, that's the thing here, won by the Audi. Then inside the doors, the build quality here is also very nicely done. Maybe looks a little bit more premium with the Audi, or what do you guys think? The interior has some kind of sport here touched as first sight at least. Also it's the M Sport steering wheel, for example. We also still have real buttons at the steering wheel, that's nice. The clicking sound is a little bit better in the Audi though. This is an easy thing here to reach the steering wheel heating, that's also an option. Then here, this is the animal skin seat. But for the 5 Series, since the facelift, you can get new perforated SensorTech seats. And they are great in comfort, actually way more comfortable than these ones here, because they are plusher from the surface and also softer and have the perforation. They are also more breathable and so on. and of course better for animals and also for the environment when you really look at the whole energy that is put in the production and so on. Seating comfort here at first sight is still quite nice. When I start the engine here, the steering wheel comes down, then there's a comfort entry function. Yeah, that's 6-cylinder low, right? Yeah, the sound I think is definitely better with the BMW. Or what's your take on that? So steering wheel here with the electric function, up and down, in and out. The steering wheel itself, that's a tough question. I mean, also has a nice size. Steering wheel itself, I think a little bit better with the Audi. And the seating comfort here, yeah, the ergonomics also seem better with the Audi, but when you have the perforated Sensortech seats, the comfort difference is not as large. Maybe they are then also better, so it really depends on the concise trim. In the US, the perforated Sensortech seats are standard now, and in Germany as well. The headroom, by the way, also no problem, plenty of them available here with the BMW too. Oh, by the way, here at BMW, here, the seat belt holder is not attached here up there. It's more down, and that's why this area here does not have, you know, this sound effect. So it's a better solution here sound-wise, but you cannot adjust it in here. It's just fixed in one height. Interior overview, I would say a little bit less clean here with the BMW, but more driver-oriented actually. So everything is lent a little bit towards the driver. That's speaking more for this BMW philosophy. On the steering wheel, still well to control, and also here, for example, for the volume selection, shifting pedals. Yeah, that more speaks to, hey, let's attack, you know, let's attack the road actually. Still a lot of manual buttons, for example here for the volume control, and also that's what I really love here, still the manual climate unit. This is a screen in here, but to control the temperature here is the real control, so that's easy and straightforward, so I really like that indeed. Let's zoom more details to the screen up there. Here in the lower part, for example, you can slide this one open, then you have cup holders behind it, and the inductive charging pad is in the front. Here for the iPhone it still works, but if you would have the Plus or the Max, then it would not fit the inductive charging pad there in the front. You still also have a real BMW shifting lever here. That's giving you a good sporty feeling. Drive mode selection is here. In contrast to the Audi, here you can still control the infotainment system from below. So that's good to do that, for example, while driving, that you don't have to use the screen here. By the way, if the screen is flickering now, we tried everything from the shutter speed, it doesn't work, that that's not flickering, but on real life it does not flicker. And here, quite smooth. Infotainment system is fast enough. This is the OS7, the older version, not like in the all new versions. And this is the integration. CarPlay and Android Auto are wireless only, actually. And the same song, but with the Harman Kardon sound system. It's a good song, good song anyway, but good sound, I mean. But actually, the Bang & Olufsen system in the Audi has a better three-dimensional sound indeed. Here there's a split armrest, so easier to open in a way, but you don't have too much space down there. Another USB-C charger. Digital instruments, when you turn on the engine like this, they come alive, and in this case, in this view here, you don't have the RPMs in that view. You can have the car internal GPS in the middle part, but when you go to the sports mode, for example, gauges change, and then you also here have the RPM on the right side. Yeah, boom, boom. And you have a head-up display. You can also adjust the height or something. It's always sharper in real life than it appears on camera, by the way, especially in here, with these raindrops that start to come here from time to time today. Oh, and by the way, once again here, integration of the ambient lighting. The Audi also offers one, but it's not equipped with the vehicle today. Another option, but here you can very well see this nice blue line in the ambient light here in the BMW. What about the trunk space? So let's start with the Audi. Here, cabin trolley. Let's see how much space we have here in the vertical way. No problem. The width here, easily 1.40 m, and the length is like 120 in meters or 47 inches. The height about 50 centimeters or 19 inches. Very well usable square dimensions. But what about the BMW? Let's move over. So let's take a look right here. We also have a different cabin trolley in here. open it up. Oh, that looks like more space here. We have this step here, but then we can lift nothing up. So that's pro and con definitely. Let's check out the width first. So it was 1 meter or 40 inches with the Audi. And I mean, here in the front, yes, easily. But then there, you are limited. So it is not as wide as with the Audi. The length was 120 with the Audi. It's a little bit less than 120. It's like 115 or 45 inches. The only thing is here in the height, it's 54 centimeters or 21 inches. So here with the 5 Series, not as wide, especially in this area. A little bit shorter, but a little bit higher. Not sure if the height would be the crucial thing. Maybe in most cases width is more a crucial thing. So I think here probably one with the Audi. And you know, just forgot to show you that. We have this net here, and then you can also fold up this and have even more space underneath it. You can also fit a spare tire here. So I think then in this case, closely won by the Audi. Engines, I picked totally comparable ones. Both 3-liter 6-cylinder with around 340 horsepower, depends on the market and the unit, and both with the acceleration figure around 5 seconds. Well, but the BMW is the inline 6-cylinder. There you can see also in this visualization, they're in the row right there, just behind after each other. And this engine here is to me the best in the BMW lineup actually. You can get it with xDrive, with the overdrive or rear-wheel drive. This special thing about the BMW, it's also available as rear-wheel drive. And of course also with smaller engines, diesel, plug-in hybrid and so on and so on. And on the Audi side also petrol, plug-in hybrid, diesel. Here then with a V6 setup, you can also see it here in the visualization 3.3. And when you pick the Quattro overdrive here with the big engines, it is still rear-wheel bias. It's then 40% in the front, 60% in the rear of permanent all-wheel drive. Smaller Audi engines have the front-wheel bias. So in this case then, the engine would be better with the BMW, so to speak, when you have rear-wheel drive only, versus the smaller ones which have the Quattro all-wheel drive with front-wheel bias. Then you have a sportier setup than here. But which one sounds better? Welcome to Thomas's Comparison Driving Lounge, starting here with the BMW 540i, the 6-cylinder in the 5 Series, and we go with the Autobahn acceleration, and we'll start at about 40 kilometers an hour, sports mode. I'll also go to the sports shifting mode. Let's go. $150. And 200 kilometers an hour, and I drop it right here, a little bit off because the road is getting wet. And so far it's not that wet yet, but of course we have to be careful. That all-wheel drive acceleration was of course quite safe and there was no other car around. So still, I recommend not driving that fast when it's rainy. And I also drop the speed here now a little bit. Lane change here, really safe. The suspension here is not that stiff, but also not soft, so it's a good compromise. We have the adaptive suspension, and in that sports mode then we have a little bit more feedback from the suspension. That's actually good. Steering is quite direct and really light even in the sports mode, so there's not much feedback from the steering wheel. We have the integral active steering in here. That's the option with the rear axle steering, and that gives us more stability at higher speeds because the rear wheels are steering in the parallel direction. At lower speeds in the opposite one, and that is giving us more agility. It makes everything, let's say, a little bit less natural from the feeling, but it delivers a great advantage when a turning circle is, for example, is narrow and just easing in and out of a basement garage, for example. So overall, a very good option to have for a rather large sedan, definitely. You've maybe heard it. Was maybe a little bit influenced by the rain as well. The noise insulation is overall very good, so not too much noise at higher speeds indeed. And here now in the tunnel you hear it as well, it's staying relatively calm. Really looking forward how it will be in the Audi, if it will be more silent or not. Here you can also see the ambient lighting very well. Look at that here and that. So that looks really, really fancy indeed. Very nice and subtle integration of the, I've set it now to blue. You can also change the colors, of course. So that 6-cylinder also gave us a nice sound, and it's really, to me, the right-sized engine for this vehicle. You don't need the 8-cylinder from the M5 or the M550i. They both have the 8-cylinder in there. So the 540i to me is the right pick for this vehicle. You can also pick it as rear-wheel drive, at least in the States, and that gives us, more accelerating out of the corners in a more agile way. Here it still has a rear-wheel bias from that all-wheel drive, but to have the rear-wheel drive version only can be more fun at times. Also better as for the fuel economy, but if you're not speeding it that much on the motorway, but rather driving in a calm way or cruise control, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour predominantly, and so on, you can score some 9 liters on 100 kilometers, 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK, if you rather keep it, rather steady and not hammer it out all the way on the motorway. So it's not that inefficient, and you have a lot of driving fun considering that. Now here, accelerating out of the corner, really nicely done. Good grip, nice sound. Yeah, and still you feel the rear-wheel bias from the all-wheel drive. So yeah, that's a really lovely thing to have. Really, really nice. Yeah, that engine has, in German we would say like cultivation. There's this German word we say Laufkultur. As direct translation would be like the, how. Yeah, well, it's not like the culture of the engine, but it's more like the good feature of the engine and running in the low frequency sonorous way. You don't have to push it, because when you switch to the comfort mode, suspension is a little bit softer, everything is easier, RPMs stay lower, and you can easily cruise that vehicle. And well, shockingly to me is that this vehicle is equipped with cruise control only. Of course, you have the adaptive cruise control with active lane keeping assist and so on, but it's still an option. And how can this vehicle be so expensive and fully packed, and this is not even included? So yeah, the pricing policy is not really that fair. That's always the thing. One more time a tunnel, and then we get to one more acceleration. I already put it once again in sports mode, then the gauges also change a little bit, and we can listen one more time to the noise installation when it's not raining that hard. So now we're starting at 80 kilometers an hour and accelerate it out. Let's see. That's 150. I'll stop here right now. Wow, that's really nice. Again, I'm keeping it rather safe. Wow, but here in that corner is also such a great handling. So although you're driving a big sedan, you have a lot of sporty driving fun. That's really nice. Yeah, the only thing is really that I would wish for a little bit more feedback from that steering. And I told you about it sometimes. Subscribers know. I think BMW lost the way there a little bit. So in the past, it was the other way around. Like BMWs were the hardest to steer, and you had so much feedback. I mean, that some even said like, I don't want to drive that one. It's so hard to steer. Actually, it's like it just creates too much effort. But then the servo steerings came and so on, and everything got better. And then they still had natural feeling. But nowadays, I think they tend to be a little bit too loose from that steering, and I think that has to change definitely. So let's go back here, right lane. Just gives me a very, very nice feeling. The comfort from these seats here, by the way, is in this case not top notch, and it's really the thing, although the seat form stays the same, but when you get it with the new perforated Sensatec seats I've shown to you in the interior part there when we had it at another vehicle, it really gives you so much more comfort in driving because the surface is more plush. You have these perforation inside there and this special stitching, which makes some kind of individual cushions on the seat. I'm really surprised how much more comfort they bring while driving. You know, I've driven the vehicle with that one. In these seats here are, in comparison, then rather uncomfortable. So be aware to stick with the perforated Syntec seats, and if you can't get them in your market, ask for it. So all the BMWs that are built in true BMW plants, it's of course the case also for the 5 Series, usually they make it possible for the customer when you say, like, I know this car exists in this spec, and now it leaves the plant that way. I will buy one when you get me my wish. You know, it's, yeah, can't hurt to try that, definitely. You know, countryside driving, it's still a lot of fun. The car is not leaning at all to the sides, and at the same time the suspension stays comfortable. So the suspension here, as for the like this compromise of comfort and sportiness, I love it. And it's not an air suspension here in this vehicle, and you can easily live with that. So it's not like, oh, I would need an air suspension to get more comfort. No, this adaptive suspension by BMW is one of the best there is on the market, and it's doing a phenomenal job. In this case, the driving experience is a little bit softer because we have 18-inch wheels mounted, and with winter tires, and that gives me more dampening from the tire itself. You know, so the whole interior concept and the feeling, it is definitely laid out on sportiness, also the how the seats are and so on. So definitely we already feel right now that here the 5 Series is appealing more to a customer that appreciates sportiness in driving. As I said, the comfort is there, especially then when you went for the Sensatec seats. But what about some fast, agile driving in tighter corners? For example here, at the traffic light. Yeah, here again, you know, like, it is 90 degrees, it's good, but to me, a little bit of a feedback, more feedback from the steering wheel would actually be good. Yeah, and the drive mode selection here, I mean, it's easy to reach, it's actually no problem. And having the OS7 here, not the all-new OS8 while driving, yeah, it's actually such a relief. It's way easier to control this system here. But now to the tight corners. And there we go, a little more tight, winding corners. Some leaves on the road, to be careful of course. We can go once again to the sports mode. Let's see, so sport shifting. Yeah, all-wheel drive giving us good traction here. Nice sound from the engine, and the road is quite rough. The suspension is still doing a good job keeping up the comfort. Let's see here now that rear axle steering. Wow, it's getting that vehicle around. That's really nice. Construction work going on here. Yeah, good acceleration out of the corner now. This S-bend here. Wow, beautiful. So the rear axle steering really makes the car more agile, especially at lower speeds then. And yeah, I mean, it can feel kind of strange also when you go left and right like this. You do feel it. You feel like the rear end of the vehicle is indeed moving, and it does, you know. That it's a weird feeling, but you get used to it. Once again, it's not a natural feeling, but it gives you more agility, and especially it's so much easier to maneuver that vehicle around than when it gets a little bit narrow in, like I said, basement garage and so on. So yeah, great performance here from the driving part. But the question is the A6 better or worse, or are they equal? And here we go with the Audi A6, also at the 3-liter petrol engine with all-wheel drive. And let's put it to the dynamic mode. And it automatically goes to the S shifting mode. We'll also start at 40 kilometers an hour. Let's see how the acceleration goes here. Let's go. 100. 150. Plop, and that's 200 kilometers an hour. Now the road is dry, of course, but I could go with the acceleration with the BMW as well. The acceleration figure to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour are exactly identical. Also same horsepower amount. Here also suspension in that adaptive mode goes stiffer at higher speeds. And we have 19-inch wheels instead of 18-inch wheels, also with winter tires. And yeah, that feels indeed a little bit sportier from suspension, surprisingly. Here we do have the adaptive air suspension that is built in this very test vehicle, and that also gives us a wide span between stiffer and not so stiff. I was really kind of surprised that this setup here seemed sportier at higher speeds indeed than with the BMW, although the whole cockpit layout and so on is rather set on this luxury tone and not necessarily on the sporty tone. So that's where the BMW gives you more the first feeling of being sportier. But here suspension wise, especially when you are in that dynamic mode, this one seemed actually even sportier. And also steering is huge difference. So the Audi gives us a better steering feeling indeed. It is very precise and direct, but gives me more feedback already in the auto mode. Let's see in the dynamic mode. That doesn't change too much actually. Yeah, a little bit, but not too much actually. So there the steering changes also with the BMW a little bit more probably, but still the big difference is the Audi has the more precise steering. It gives me more a feeling of what I am experiencing on the road. So, and I will also confirm that later on probably when we have the winding corners part. So the steering feel is definitely a point for the Audi. Suspension wise, told you with the BMW, it's a great suspension. So suspension wise, both do a very good job. Yeah, I mean 18-inch winter tires for the BMW. It will be a little bit, wow, that's low standing blinding sun now. So with the BMW, with summer tires and bigger wheels, it will also be a little bit more equal. But yeah, both suspensions are doing a great job. Also, if you do not have air suspension here, but just go with the normal adaptive suspension here with the Audi, it would also be just fine. To me, really, the big difference is the steering feel, which this one is definitely won by Audi. And isn't there something going on there? I mean, when you think about a steering feel comparison, shouldn't the BMW win this? You know, like from the brand identity wise. So I think this, yeah, definitely. I'm addressing the BMW engineers. You have to win back the steering feeling game. So it can't be like the real thing for the company that Audi is winning this aspect in the comparison, right? Isn't it? But here, to me, the steering wheel is perfect. So Audi is nailing it with the steering feeling. At this moment, I think that Audi and Porsche, they together deliver you the best steering feeling in all vehicles. So still comfortable, but sporty, and you have a direct feeling of what you are experiencing on the road. And you will also see now this next traffic light in here, the green now, and now there is exactly a 90-degree bend. And look what the steering is doing. So 90-degree bend, and here just a little bit more because there's this, that's tighter corner in the middle, but you almost have the copy of what's being done on the road. And I think that's a very, very good thing to have. It gives you orientation and it gives you so much control over the vehicle. The consumption figure here, by the way, kinda equal. You can also score the very same consumption figures. Also some 9 liters, more kilometers, 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK. So both same engines, same equal, same horsepower output. One is V6, the other is R6. So different, like how the cylinders are oriented. That's meant by that. That isn't too big of a difference. That's why I picked these two vehicles for the comparison today, that you really can compare them. Now the interesting thing is with the all-wheel drive system. We're also experiencing when I'm accelerating out here at the traffic light. So I let this Vito there. There must be a motorcycle in that Vito. They put a Yamaha logo on the back of that Mercedes Vito. That's a fun thing, right? So, but maybe not the best thing for burglars, because when they know the Yamaha logo, it's like, oh, there must be some nice motorcycle inside. I'm gonna take a look at that. So when I'm accelerating out of the corner here now, here like this, see here once again 90-degree steering wheel, And yeah, it's beautifully done indeed. Such a good feeling. And the key thing is here, when you hear, does not only have a Yamaha in the back here, obviously also has NOS injection. So with the all-wheel drive, Quattro is not always Quattro. There are like several different Quattro systems at Audi, and when you have the 3-liter engines, 3-liter 6-cylinders, both diesel and petrol. So here on the petrol side, this one here, and also the S6 and also the RS6. The S6 in the US. In Europe they went for the diesel for the S6, but then you also have the 3-liter diesel, of course, you know. And of course the RS6 then with that 8-cylinder. So when you have these big engines, then you still have a rear wheel bias with the Quattro system. So the all-wheel drive systems here are comparable. However, if you think a comparison of the lower entry versions, 5 Series versus A6, then the 5 Series would give us clearly a better agility driving out of the corners. Let's say you pick a 2-liter 4-cylinder, and then you make it with rear-wheel drive for the BMW, and you pick a 2-liter 4-cylinder for the Audi, and then you have the front-wheel biased Quattro all-wheel drive. And that's of course not that cool. So now from 100 kilometers an hour, and again another acceleration, picking it up very well. Wow, 150, 170. Of course, now the road is a little bit drier, so I can drive a little bit faster, 200, and wow, it gives me such a great controlled feeling over the vehicle. So I have to say, yes, bearing in mind, this is a wheel bigger here, but still it's 18 versus 19-inch winter tires in the comparison, so that's okay. Here, of course, then the air suspension, but the suspensions are still in the... No, I don't want any traffic announcement. Wow, that's super annoying, right? So, yeah, DAB announcement off. I hate that when, yeah. Goodbye. So, back to the vehicle, sorry about that. So, I'm kind of astonished a little bit that the Audi gives me a more controlled feeling over the vehicle. And that's to me a surprise. Maybe I would have expected that from the, you know, when I have an S6. But here at the usual A6, wow, that's really a thing, you know. Everyone maybe before watching this review was thinking, okay, yeah, the BMW will be the sportier and the A6 will be the more comfortable one. So, and the conclusion is, if you go more comfort, then pick the A6. If you want to go sporty more, then go for the 5 Series. No, actually, this one here does feel sportier as for the characteristics. It's a really weird thing, you know. So, like suspension, steering setup, and so on. But the BMW first has the sportier impression, you know, exterior, how the interior is oriented, how the car makes you feel in the first place. But then when you experience the vehicle, the A6 feels more sporty, especially in that sense of I'm in control. Oh, and turning indicator sound, that one is better with the BMW, by the way. Yeah, very well done. Yeah, that's interesting. So the engine characteristic is a little bit different. They are actually just purely from the engine-wise, the BMW makes a sportier impression. So from the driving dynamics, the Audi is sportier, I feel. Engine-wise, the BMW is sportier. Like this, you know, I told you earlier, this Laufkultur thing. The BMW 6-cylinder has a better sound and also seems to be a little bit more spontaneous in a way. Yeah. Wow. I can already tell you right now, it's getting super tough, guys. So, yeah, the engine is more emotional with the BMW. Then again, steering is definitely better with the Audi. So, it's really a tough one. Now, countryside driving here, also very relaxed. Talking about the comfort, really nice. You can enjoy every bend here. And the seat surfaces, you don't have these good sensor tech options like you have with the BMW, with the Audi, especially not on the US market. And in the German market, for example, we can also get Dynamica microfiber on the seat here. That would be way to go for, but also not animal free. But the ergonomics on the base seat, they are better, especially for tall people with the Audi. So they have better seat ergonomics in a way. BMW then offers these new seating surfaces. So that's, I think, a thing of the market. Told you that here, these concise test vehicles today, there the Audi offers more seating comfort. However, it would look different than when you compare the Sensatec, the new perforated Sensatec seats with the BMW. There it's at least equal, or maybe even the BMW is better. So when I'm ordering these test vehicles for comparisons, I try to make it as equal as possible, but I cannot configure a vehicle that is getting built then. You know, that's not possible, obviously. So, but this was the closest I could get for this comparison. So I always tell you more about my experience with maybe other vehicle versions of the same vehicle, where we then, you know, have a fair comparison even, or more tips of which concise trim to pick and so on. So what about the winding corners here? All right, sporty driving, tight corners, dynamic mode. Let's see. Now I feel that this air suspension, when it sets on the sports or dynamic trim, it's indeed rougher than with the BMW adaptive suspension. That's super interesting. And that also explains why it is sportier on the motorway, on the course of comfort on these rough roads. That's interesting. Now here, look at the steering characteristic. Tight corner and all-wheel drive. Nice. Really very well to control. So much fun. Beautiful, really beautiful. And this is a very interesting comparison now. So once again here, steering feel, control of the vehicle, pro Audi. Engine power curve, I feel, is cooler and sportier with the BMW. Driving fun, great with both. Suspension in this case here is stiffer with the Audi, although it's the air suspension. Comparing here the sports mode. And how the car comes out of the corners, well, the A6 also offers the rear axle steering, but I have to say you feel it more with the 5 Series indeed. So really tough thing. So I feel that the 5 Series would come out of the corners a little bit better. But it's really a close call. So you have a lot of elements that speak for the BMW. You have other elements that speak for the Audi. Well, the driving party hasn't made it easier on me, neither on you. But which one would I take home? Which one would I take home? Today it's really tough. It's a very tricky question. So exterior wise, I have to say I love both. Both have their very distinctive styling. The BMW to me a little bit sportier. The A6 more German Bauhaus design, but still has a lot of elegance. So exterior wise, I really love them both. So you can find a lot of elements on the exterior design to love. Yeah, you need the matrix LED headlamps with the Audi, that's for sure, to have, you know, the nice turning indicators and so on. Interior wise, the styling looks cleaner in the Audi and to me a little bit more modern actually. So from the interior concept, I think the Audi wins. More legroom in the rear, that's also important. The trunk is a little bit better usable. The only thing maybe the BMW has better, that you have these, this control knob here for the infotainment system that you can choose between touch and controlling. The Audi is touch only. The BMW also has the manual climate knobs. But for a touch-only solution, this is one of the best touch-only solutions there in the Audi. And the whole visualization of the infotainment system, maybe a little bit better in the Audi, but infotainment system to me, both are actually fine. I like the possibility that you can use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with a cable solution still, because that's more stable and faster. The BMW only offers that wireless charging possibility. That's to me a downside. Well, and then as for driving, both drive exceptionally well. So it's really a tough question there too. The BMW engine, to me, a little bit livelier and better in the sound. The engine itself is more fun in the BMW, whereas the steering is way more fun in the Audi. Seating comfort, especially while driving longer. The ergonomics of the seat in the Audi is better. However, BMW leads it with the Sensatec material perforated. We haven't seen today, but we had it in the other review. That's where they are a little bit more advanced meanwhile. Suspension, both actually awesome. Also depends on the individual setup you pick, but no matter which suspension you go for, with both vehicles, they will also always be very good. So in the driving fun, both are a lot of fun to drive actually. Yeah, I mean, the question is, to me, for example, steering feel is very important. That's why I enjoy this one, especially in the Audi. Then again, I enjoy the engine in the BMW. So this time it's really not about this is the clear winner and because of this and this and this. It's all, throughout the review we could say like, yeah, this is better with the BMW, this is a little bit better with the Audi. That made it so interesting. So yeah, just rewatch the whole thing if you haven't made up your mind yet. And I'm still struggling myself. Price-wise, very interesting, by the way. Although, I mean, it's ridiculous. Both cars here close to 90,000 euros as they stand here right now, fully equipped. But that's not even fully equipped. What is that? Here, the Audi, it's over 90,000 euros. And then you don't have the Matrix LED included. And this one here, a little bit under 90,000 euros. So there's a price gap of like, I think, 8,000 euros or something between the two cars. So the Audi is more expensive. But then also with the BMW, almost 90,000 euros and no adaptive cruise control included for that. So the pricing policy is really to be highly criticized with both vehicles. Maybe for me it would come down to the market. So especially in the US, where I can only go with animal skin seats here on the Audi, I would pick the BMW with the new perforated Sensatec. In the UK and in Germany, where I also have more choice with Dynamica microfiber seats, for example, yeah, they're not animal-free yet completely. That's, of course, a thing to consider yet. But there I would maybe tend more towards the Audi because of the steering feel, for example, and a little bit more, like the better seat ergonomics, and that the interior concept is a little bit more open and spacious. Yeah. But I think it will also be a case of getting concise offer from your dealer or on the used car market, depending on which one you get, and then really compare it, because you will enjoy both vehicles, and to me they are both together still one of the most desirable sedans on the market, also if you compare them to the competition. So in this segment, I think here we picked the top notch overall on the car market. Which one would you take home? Would you struggle? Would you like to take both? Or do you actually have a clear winner? And why don't I take both? Yeah, I just take both. So, sorry Audi, sorry BMW, I'll just keep both keys.